And I think it would be good to start this by looking at where we are and basically how we got here. Can you share with us any thoughts that you have on the evolution of clinical development over the years and how the technology we're discussing today, EDC, has evolved with that as well?
Yeah, you could talk forever about that. So when I joined, I've been doing software my whole career for about 40 years. And when I came into this part of the world was in 2003 when I joined Phase Forward, and EDC was just getting started. There were a bunch of companies around, and the internet was becoming a viable way of actually putting up real applications. So there was a group of founders, Paul Bleischer, Phase Forward, and others, that decided that they could maybe make a better solution harnessing the internet to enter data for clinical research. As many of you probably know, before that, it was paper, it was arduous, people were filling out forms, faxing them or mailing them in, getting data correction forms, and EDC really, really helped that loop. There was more instant feedback on the data that was being entered, edit checks were able to get the data cleaner faster, and it really solved an important problem that was around back then. It really started to accelerate. There's two dates or two times in events that stick in my mind. In early 2004, I think it was 2004, Quintiles started pricing EDC trials lower than paper trials. And that was a major event that started the acceleration in terms of the outsourcing. And then GSK in 2004 decided that they were going to go 100% EDC and really accelerated their adoption into EDC. I think those two events had a huge impact on the market accelerating, and now EDC is pretty much what everyone uses. Back then, I'd say about 85% of the data that was collected in a clinical trial was on a form. So EDC did a great job in terms of solving that problem of how much time it took to get all the data in and enter it in and all that stuff that the paper process did. And then some things started to happen. Different data sources started to come into play. Early, it was labs and images. And so the EDC system started to try to adopt to take all that kind of data. Electronic submissions became something that the agencies were taking, and CDIS was born in standards, and all the EDC vendors started to adopt their systems to produce the right data formats for electronic submissions. And then as the internet got more popular, there was all this kind of talk about trusted third parties and who's going to hold the data for pharma, and can pharma have the data in their own facilities if it's just being keyed into the system and there isn't a backup form on it. So these things started to put a lot of pressure on the EDC systems. And so all the vendors, and I was one of them, we all started to try to change our systems to be able to accommodate all these things. There was talk over the years about EDC going away and being replaced strictly by EHRs. There's still talk about that. The truth, though, is that EHRs of the world, and now they're pretty ubiquitous in the United States at least, are designed to help doctors provide care to patients and bill appropriately, while EDC systems and clinical development systems are designed to perform experiments on humans. So they have a different level of scrutiny. They're not necessarily the normal type of tests and drugs you would administer. So EHRs don't have the full ability to do the data, but they are becoming more valuable in terms of using some of that data for both qualifications, inclusion, exclusion, as well as some data that's entered into there that can be used for clinical trial. And there's a whole host of other things in real world evidence that EHRs have been proven to be valuable. Drugs are getting approved for secondary use based on what can be mined from the real data, but it's not going to replace EDC in my opinion. So I think going forward, the functions that you find in an EDC system will continue to be an incredibly valuable part and a necessary part of the clinical operation ecosystem. The systems will continue to expand over time and have to conform to the different ways that trials are run. But so that's my short history, Ed. I just, it's been quite a run, and all that I just said was, 17 years. iPhones weren't around when this started, and now they feel like they're everywhere. So it's been an interesting evolution over the past, 20 years of EDC.